So before we jump, if you'll have any questions after the talk, I'm here all day, but if you have any feedback, comments, or anything that you'd like to ask, feel free to reach out on G+, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you are. The handle is Greenido in one word. So first and foremost, what is the Google Assistant? It's a platform, a way for you to speak with Google, to leverage the quite big investments in machine learning, NLP, which is natural language processing, and AI, basically. So the ability to extract meaning from the conversation. Of course, when we're talking with developers, the first question is, okay, do we have any users on this new platform? So the answer is yes. We have 400 million devices that already have the assistant on them. And one of the biggest misconceptions is to think that the assistant is just for smart speakers. So just like Alexa, but Google Home. So definitely not. And you could see here all the different devices that already support and have the assistant on them. So of course, mobile phone, Android and iPhones, cars, laptops, TVs, headsets, wearables, all over. We even have the Google Assistant SDK, which is the thin library that you could embed on your own devices. So any Raspberry Pi, any device that you want that will have the abilities of the Google Assistant and will be smart, you could embed it very easily too. Another big incentive for developers and companies is that it's quite big blue ocean right now, not a lot of competition, but the competition will be there. So you definitely want to start and create your actions on Google as soon as possible. This is really important slide, and basically it's making a bit of organize in this convoluted world of different terminology. So first we're speaking about, Google Home, Google Mini, Google Max, which are smart speakers, and we have many more devices, or mobile phones. So these will be the surfaces, and the ability from our perspective as developer to do the best that we can with the specific device, it's very important. So if you have a screen, definitely offer the user the capabilities of the screen. And the example that we'll give a bit later is that if the user is asking for direction, if I'm just speaking to the user because I don't have a screen, I'll give them the directions. But if they have screen, maybe I'll show them a map, and then with one click, they could open the navigation app that they're using on the phone. The Google Assistant is basically the conversation between you and Google. This is the platform. This is where the magic happens. This is where we're doing the text-to-speech and speak-to-text and all the machine learning capabilities of understanding what users want is being done there. And then your ability to be part of this platform is with Actions on Google, where you could actually create your own services and blend them into the platform. So for instance, if your service is called XYZ, I will say, hey Google, talk to XYZ. And then you getting the user from the assistant, and inside the platform, you could do whatever you like with the user in order to make them as happy as possible, productive. Let's say that you have a specific service that you want to offer the abilities to talk with and get things done. This is the way that you want to integrate with. It's not just about talking and voice. We do have the ability to have just to type. So if we are in this venue and you don't want to speak right now, you could also communicate with the assistant by just typing. Of course, we're offering just to tap, so we have the ability to have buttons and just choose the most popular options from what you allowing the user to choose from, or we could use the Google Lens, so just to use the camera. And we had few demos in the past 2 or 3 months where you could take the phone and ask the Google Assistant, how many calories in this? And that's it. And it's already seeing in the camera a green apple, and it will tell you how much calories there is there. And the Google Lens actually identifying 99 point whatever objects in the photo. So it's very interesting to see this way to communicate with the assistant. And of course, you could tap into it with your actions. How does it work? Basically, we're bursting with, hey, Google, okay, Google. And in this example, it's personal chef that we wrote, giving you recipes. The Google Assistant is doing all the magic of, understanding the conversation, using the knowledge graph that Google has, the user profile, and the merging, or basically the translation between speech to text and text to speech. So you'll get a JSON file that is being translated for you. Then you could go to here it's Google Cloud, but it could be any cloud that you're already using. Have your service answer, in this example, it's Personal Chef, answer the user, and then it's back and forth a conversation until the user is saying bye-bye or quit or goodbye. You could see that we're understanding quite complicated conversations. And in this example specifically, we put here, cold, warm, hot, and then soup, fast, chicken, tomato. So different things. It's marking them because it's understanding what we want. And you could see here that if you don't want to have the heavy lifting and understanding it, you do want to use some tool that will do it for you. If you have already an NLP in your company and you want to use it, you are most welcome to use it. But if you don't, we highly encourage you to use Dialogflow. Now, in this scenario, what's going on here is that from the user input until we're reaching your service, basically we have just the Google Assistant platform because you have some sort of an NLP system in place. If you don't have, we definitely recommending for you to use Dialogflow, which you could basically think of as a UI, as a GUI, that letting you extract intents and entities from the conversation. So you as a developer getting a nice JSON that is already containing what the user wants in a specific parts of the conversation. How you're doing it, you're just typing what the user says, giving few examples, and then the machine learning is learning what it needs to extrapolate and to give all the different other variations that the users might ask for it. And you could imagine that it's saving you a lot of work and effort. And in this scenario, you could see that we're going and, okay, Google, talk to Personal Chef, we're going to the Google Assistant platform, and then we're moving on to Dialogflow to extract the specific intent that we want to have and the entities. And in this case, it's, of course, will trigger first the welcome intent, where you, as the best practice, tell the user what it can do with your action. And then the user is getting to it, asking for specific things, and we're recommending, in our case, it's a recipe. And again, it's going to the cloud, to our service, and coming back until the back and forth is continuing the conversation until the user is finishing it. And this is just an example of what I spoke about. We're starting with, find me a recipe from homemade cannoli, for instance. And then it will go, Dialogflow here at the bottom will extract the entities here, homemade and cannoli, and then the logic will be done in our webbook, in our servers, and we'll get the right recipe to the user. First and foremost, we want to create those magical experiences. It's true everywhere. And in order to do it, I highly recommend you to check out the resources that we have before we jumping into coding about VUI. So voice UI, very different from GUI that we all know. There are three main parts that you want to take out of it. Is that one, you do want to have or create your own personality. So think about, how the conversation will be with the user, what types of words, slang, maybe different types of meaning that you want to convey to the user. Then always think about the fact that in conversation there are no errors. You can't say, I don't understand you. It's causing lots of frustration. So definitely be aware that if the users are going off trail, you need to do the best effort in order to put them on this golden path that will get them to where you want to get them. And last but not least is that you want to create some sort of benefit to the user. So it's not going to be replaced everything. If you already have an app, a web app, a website, it could be some other convenient way to get the users to where you want with 1 or 2 commands or with short conversation and not with, 8 steps that they need to take in another form factor like your website or the app itself. We have different capabilities and different surfaces. So definitely the audio should be the bare minimum because we'll have it everywhere, but not always. Sometimes we will have the screen and sometimes not. But here you could see that if we have the screen, so for instance, we do want to have the example of showing a map and giving the user a link, so immediately they will be in their navigation app that they are using. So the most basic way is to have the simple response, and in the simple response, always make sure that you're giving the full answer with the examples in the speech, and then a summary of it in the text. Why? Because with our eyes, we are glancing over the text. We don't need to replicate the two. The users will always listen to everything. We do have the ability to guide the users and to have some suggestion chips. So if you have the most popular answers to a specific questions, let them have it. And then with one click, they could answer, and the conversation is much faster and easier. And we have the basic cards, which is actually the most complicated cards. And here you could have not only text, but also an image, a link to external service, and basically giving all the rich metadata that you want to convey to the user. In our case, it will be a recipe with a nice image and a link maybe to open it and to have another form for it. We have the ability to have lists and carousels, and you could see here the best practices of how many items you want in each. And in our case, it might be that the list will be for different recipes, and then for specific dishes, maybe we'll use the carousel because it's much less that we want to offer. We could ask for extra information and for permission. So in this case, we want to have the user geolocation. So you could see here that the granularity will be reduces. If we are talking about the mobile device, yeah, we want a geolocation. If we're talking about a smart speaker, we could be fine just with the zip code. We don't need the granularity. We have the ability to authenticate the user. You do need, at the current stage, to have your own auth server. And once you're doing it, basically you have the identity of the user, and you could keep the conversation tailored to their needs because you know who they are. The ability to do transactions, and it's one of those things that, remove all the fractions, because with one click, you could facilitate the whole shopping experience. And here you could see this quick demo of ordering from Panera Bread. Basically, with one click, the user could complete the purchase or say something like, okay, Google, ask from Domino's to send the regular. And it will already know what is your regular, and it will be different from another person. And since we already have the details and the credit card information in the Google Wallet, it will be one-click experience, which is definitely better than hopping from loops. Yeah?
What about data protection?
Sorry?
What about data protection?
In what sense?
In the sense that can it implement it in a way that Google does not?
So the question was, can we implement it without Google knowing the credit card information or the user information, right? So, yeah, so the answer is yes. You could definitely do that. It won't be as slick as this one, but you could definitely make sure that, let's say that you have another way to hold the user's credit cards, and it's not with Google Wallet. You could offer it. After you authenticate the user, you could offer them your way to full the transaction, yeah? Yes? Mm-hmm.
And I want to launch something like that. How do I do that? How do they get it?
So I'll show a link a bit later, but you do have the ability with the restaurant to have the transactions, exactly like that.
No, I'm talking about how do they discover? How do I
it's a great question, and we have a slide for it, so I'll reach to it in a minute. Yes? About? Hebrew. It will be added. We're not saying when, but it will be. So smart home, you have the ability to connect to different devices, lots of partnerships, and basically with the Assistant SDK, you could have it on any hardware that you like or care about. One of those things that I really like with the Assistant SDK is this Mochatel machine that you could come talk with, and it will give you your Mochatel. And basically on any Raspberry Pi, you could implement it, and it's really cool to see what makers are doing with it. So how to start? You're starting with Dialogflow, And Dialogflow, again, this great tool to have the extractions of intents. In this case, you just start by typing few intents. And once you're typing it, basically, Dialogflow will know what the users mean. And then with just few clicks, you could have the intent name and the action name. And the action name is the one that will be passed for you. So in the server side, you could do meaningful things with it. It also extracting parameters from the conversation. And if you need, in order to fulfill a certain task, few different parameters, it's smart enough to ask the user for the extra parameter that they didn't say at the beginning. This is about parameters. For the ones that will do the code labs, you'll see how you're working with those parameters, which is a very efficient way to know exactly where you're standing in the conversation, because as you all know, sometimes the users are getting from different direction to their goal. You have the ability to train, so to use the machine learning, the Dialogflow already producing for you. So after you giving it a few examples, hopefully a bit better to give at least 10 examples, you could go to the train section there and just click on train, and it will train it to know all the different permutations that might be expanding the limited set that you gave. You could create your own entities. We have lots of predefined entities, but in this example specifically, we put some entities like chicken, beef, so it's matching the right things that we want to offer in our recipe app. And here it's not marked, but in your case, it might make sense to allow auto expansion. And then again, Dialogflow is doing the extrapolation of making sure that this limited data set will be enriched with much more examples. And then very nicely, you could see it just marking with colors what it's extracting and understanding. And you could have in the prompts here the follow-up questions. Let's say that in order to have a full recipe recommendation, we need the first dish, the main dish, and a dessert. If the user just gave us 2 options, we could ask for the third one, and it will be done. Doesn't matter how the user is giving this information. One nice thing here is that if you want to use the current service that you already have, you could use the webhook, and then it's a simple HTTPS, any endpoint that you already have. Or you could use Firebase functions and use the inline editor and basically stay here in Dialogflow and code everything. You're getting this nice JSON, this simple way to work with. So if you're using, we have a Node.js library, but if you're using any other technology, you could just work with just JSON, and in any technology, you could parse it and make sense out of it. You could see that you have everything here. So the parameters like chicken, the intent, what the user said, and then you could respond with the right cards that we saw before. You could also try it immediately. So after you're doing something, you want to see if the intent is working or not, just type it and you'll immediately get it or not. So you'll know how to correct it. As I mentioned, we have the Node.js client library, which basically is saving you lots of legwork, and it's already extracting and having the nice mapping, and you just need to code those certain functions that will answer for specific intents. And you could see very easily, here in this example is Number Genie. It's a game to guess numbers, so how we are extracting the right intents, and we just need to fill those functions. I won't cover this, but this is facts about Google. The link here is basically giving you a tutorial to do facts about you. So you could change it, play with it, and see how it works. But basically, the idea here is that we get into this conversation from different angles, and you could fine-tune it and making sure that you are answering it. You always recommend, we're always recommending to make sure that you asking in your server side, what is the surface capability? And in this example, you could see that if we are on screen, we'll give a nice image. If not, it's just the text. So again, this is the Number Genie tutorial that we have, and you're almost welcome to check it afterwards. It's all started here in console.action.google.com, and this is the place where you're starting your project, and from there you could work and create the actions on Google. From here, you're also submitting it for review. Another benefit that we have there is the simulator. you could test what you created. And if you are logged into this web simulator with the Gmail address that you already logged in from your phone or Google Home or any other hardware, you could test it and see how it's working on this device as well, which is very beneficial. How we're going to reach users. So we already have those languages. We're going to have more and more. We aren't publishing any dates, but you could imagine how the prioritization is being done. We had Russian added yesterday, so there is lots of progress there. And it's not just the languages, it's also the locales. So in each case here, just imagine, if it's Portuguese, it might be Portuguese for Portugal, and then Brazil, it's with all the different nuances. That's why we have French and Canadian French. So how are we getting, and that was the question there, we have the explicit triggering when the users know your brand. So they're going and, okay, Google, let's talk with Personal Chef. Okay, Google, let's talk with Domino's Pizza, Panera, United. This is straightforward, and the user actually could do in one sentence, talk with Personal Chef for a strawberry dessert. So immediately it will give them the right answer. But we have the ability to have implicit triggering. So when the user doesn't know your specific brand, and they're just asking for play a game, I want to work out, I want to do something. And then, like in search, Google will do the best effort to surface the most quality actions that answering this specific request. And then you will be populate and offer to the user. If the user is choosing you, then you're getting the users from Google, and you could start the conversation with them. We also have the ability to have the directory. We have it on the web, and we have it inside the assistant, where user could, like in the example here, just browse all the different services that are already there. And I highly encourage you to check it out. There's lots of good services. You also have the ability to link. And this is one of the important aspects, because if you currently have a service, an app, a website, you could link to the assistant service that you build. And if the users are clicking on it from your app, they're immediately getting your service inside the assistant. So without any frictions, you're getting the 400 million users for your specific service. Yes? So with the link, you could move the users from the app to the assistant. So you could, in the assistant, you could use the basic card and have links to your app or to your website. Yes?
To be clear, so if you're from the app, you will always go outside the app to the assistant, and it's possible to go back.
Yes, but I would say that you need to think about what is the best usage of it, right? Because if the user are already in the app and it's convenient for them, let's say, to get things done with one click, you don't need to give them the assistant, right? It's in those cases where, they could be much more productive and efficient with the assistant, so then offer them the assistant. So it's not like, replace everything. No, if it could be complementary, yeah, definitely use that. Where to start? So we have a list of short videos that focusing on specific topics. I already created, I think it's 9 videos. So AOG-tips, definitely check it out. In the description of each videos, you have tutorial, you have blog posts. So if you don't like to see videos, you could just, open it and go and read the Medium post or the tutorial. We also have much more deep talks that we recorded in the short link below. And the code labs that we'll do in 3 minutes are all here. So please, if you have laptops and you want the hands-on experience, go now to codelabs.developers.google.com. And in the combo box, choose the assistant. And for the ones that just want to try what is Dialogflow all about, go to Animal Joker Code Lab. To the ones that want to see how to integrate your own server, go to the Bitcoin Info Code Lab that will show you how to work with Dialogflow, but using the webhook in order to use your server. So those are the 2 that I recommend to do. I'll wait until you'll get...
Could you explain again
Yes, this is the code lab. This is the section that we have 35 minutes for, no, 25 or 35, depends when we'll be kicked out, where it's a hands-on experience. So you could go and create your own action right now. If you want just to test Dialogflow, it's Animal Joker. It's the middle one. If you want to test a bit in more depth how you could use your own server, your own endpoint, it's Bitcoin Info. Yes? Yeah, please choose the assistant because there are lots of them. Sure. You can't use today languages that are not supported in Dialogflow or in the assistant. So in the case that you gave with Hebrew, it won't work. You do have the ability to integrate inside the conversation with SSML, Hebrew or any other language, because basically it's just MP3 files that you embed in it. So I'm not sure if it's answering the question. Okay, so please ask again. Mm-hmm.
So we have our flow in Messenger.
Yes.
So like Chatbot or some standard app.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to send to Dialogflow so that whenever you don't understand what the user asks, it's not part of the flow. Just understand the intent of that. And if you find we have 5, 6, 7 intents.
In what language? It won't work. Easy.
You go to Google Translate first and then head to.
If you are in Google Translate, with all the respect that I have to Google Translate, you'll have those, delicate things that taking lots of work to have this 9.99% of accuracy and quality. So I don't think it's quality enough to do it in that way of, going through the translate and then training it, extracting the intents and the entities and going back. I think you'll hit lots of cases where you're getting the wrong intents. Sure.
Can I still use Dialogflow for Hebrew in a stupid way?
Yes, but
Collect a few intents that I understand and translate it into one answer.
yes, and again, maybe I'm wrong, and with the translation, it will work for your use cases. I highly doubt it, but it might worth a try.
I'm asking without Google Translate.
Yeah.
Define everything under Dialogflow because I did it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And just be able to extract the interesting parts of the conversation and based on that decide whether you can send it back to chat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We have it? Okay. Why it's like that? Okay, and this is just last but not least, we have a very active developer community on G+, 3,500 developers. So if you have problems, highly encourage you to check this community. If not, Stack Overflow, of course, action on Google Tag. Lots of people are helping each other over there. Of course, our Twitter handle, and the source of truth is on developer.google.com/actions, all the tutorials, everything. I'm trying to publish quite a lot of tutorials and aspects, so again, just feel free to follow whatever you hanging. It might be Twitter, G+, or LinkedIn. So thank you very much, and now it's a hands-on. I'll be here, so if you have questions, just let me know. Thank you.